It's Monday, January 20. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The country's unemployment rate has fallen to a new record low of 7.2%. That's according to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin. The data is based on the October 2019 labor force survey. Director General Carol Coy says this is 1.5 percentage points lower than the 8.7% outturn for the corresponding period in 2018. It is also 0.6% below the 7.8% recorded in the April 2019 survey. Additionally, Ms. Coy said the total number of persons in jobs as at October rose by 2.4% compared to the corresponding period in 2018. She was speaking during Statin's quarterly media briefing at the Knutsford Court Hotel in Kingston on Friday, January 17. Ms. Coy said a breakdown of the data shows that the total number of unemployed persons as at October 2019 stood at 96,700, representing a 16.4% decline over the previous year. Members of the public living in Kingston, St. Thomas and St. Catherine are invited to submit job applications on Monday, January 20 to the Electronic Labour Exchange Department at 1F North Street in Kingston. Job seekers such as cashiers, gas station workers, data entry clerks, administrative staff, security officers and accountants may also download the LMIS app from Google Play to register and submit applications. The opportunity ends at 2 p.m. It is part of the Ministry of Labour through its Labour Market and Information System recruitment drive. Along with the applications, applicants are required to submit 2 passport-size photographs, academic certificates, resumes, tax registration number, national insurance scheme number, and 2 letters of recommendation from a previous employer, a justice of the peace, or minister of religion. Construction of a $140 million state-of-the-art adult transitional center in downtown Kingston for homeless persons is projected for completion by the end of 2020 or early 2021. The Ministry of Local Government and Community Development is spearheading the project, which is expected to provide a temporary shelter for just over 100 persons living on the streets of the corporate area. It is also intended to facilitate their reintegration into society through treatment and other interventions. The facility, being built at 163-167 King Street, will be managed and operated by the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. Local Economic Development Officer at the KSAMC, David Wright, said that the center will address the need for adequate accommodation for homeless individuals. He was speaking during Tuesday, January 14's media launch of the 2020 renewal of the Kingston City Run at the Courtly Hotel in New Kingston. Jamaica stands to benefit from hosting the upcoming United Nations World Tourism Organization Summit on Innovation, Resilience and Crisis Management. According to Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett, the focus on resilience tops global agendas, and it is through capacity enhancement that the country will be able to respond meaningfully to global disruptions that are coming to us daily. Mr. Bartlett was addressing a press conference at the Jamaica Tourist Board offices in New Kingston Wednesday to outline details of the summit. Mr. Bartlett said the summit will be held at the Montego Bay Convention Center in St. James on May 28 and May 29 and will include the 65th meeting of the Regional Commission for the Americas. He noted that the summit will be looking at models and adopt best practices on ways to structure systems and, quote, help us in the Caribbean to deal with climatic events, end quote. Located on the southeast coast of Jamaica, the natural harbor at Port Royal was the passageway taken by the cruise ship Maribella as it docked for the first time in Port Royal on Monday, January 20. Carol Francis was on hand and filed this report.
The inaugural trip of the passenger cruise ship Marella Discovery 2 pulled into the Port Royal cruise port early Monday morning. Marella Discovery 2, originally operated by Royal Caribbean International, carries over 2,000 passengers. Passengers disembarked via a floating pier pioneered in Norway. The floating pier, or sea walk, is the solution being used by the Port Authority of Jamaica to protect Port Royal's historic and fragile environment. They were whisked away to various attractions, including a Blue Mountain Coffee Kingston tour. Others were given a Kingston Highlights tour, including visits to the Emancipation Park in New Kingston, which is a commemoration to the end of slavery in Jamaica. At the entrance of the park is an 11-foot bronze sculpture of a black male and female looking up to the skies. It symbolizes a triumphant rise from the horrors of slavery. Other attractions visitors can go to see is the exciting local art at the National Gallery of Jamaica and the Bob Marley Museum, located on the site of the legendary musician's home. Still others opted to stroll through the historic town of Port Royal. There are 4 cruise calls slated for Port Royal, which should bring approximately 10,000 cruise ship passengers into Port Royal.
Port Royal is a sleepy fishing village, but the town has begun to hum with activities with the planned bi-weekly arrival of cruise ships. History will come alive for visitors to Port Royal. They will be able to experience the places and artifacts that authentically represent the stories and people who lived there in the past. Marlon Samuels gives us the details.
With the arrival of thousands of cruise ship passengers and in anticipation of the boost to heritage tourism, 22 residents of Port Royal have been trained as tour guides.
Port Royal was once surrounded by water. It was an island, was known as Key de Carina, meaning a beautiful key. Right? How the landmass was formed, the Palisades ship that they drove on to get here was formed by the 1692 earthquake. So during the earthquake, rivers from east of Port Royal washed down deposit of silt and sand. The natural current now started to form the land. The process takes over 200 years to form. When that process is formed, they call that process land deposition.
The town offers a diversity of attractions. Visitors can pay a visit to the museum, where they can see up close relics of the activities of infamous swashbuckling pirates, including the notorious pirate Henry Morgan, who later became Lieutenant Governor. The activities helped Port Royal earn the moniker, the wickedest city in the world. You can step out of the museum and stroll through Fort Charles, which was built in the shape of a ship in the 1650s. Originally called Fort Cromwell, it was renamed Fort Charles. The fort, which is well preserved as a semicircular gun port, it was damaged by both the 1692 Jamaica earthquake and the 1907 Kingston earthquake, which later resulted in the tilting of the building called the Giddy House, itself a major attraction. History buffs can also take a leisurely stroll to visit the tomb of Louis Galdi, which can be seen at the St. Peter's Square Anglican Church in Port Royal. Galdi was among the hundreds of people swallowed by the hurt in the 1692 earthquake in Port Royal. He lived to tell the tale when the hurt reportedly spat him out. The church was also destroyed in the 1692 earthquake. The current church was rebuilt in 1725-26 when James Clark and Louis Galdi were church wardens. 2/3 of the original area known as Port Royal lies beneath 40 feet of water. Fisher folks who live and work in Port Royal are hoping the watery remains of the 17th century city will be developed along with other underwater attractions.
A lot of investors can come in and invest in it. Different things, art and craft, and go to the quays, like a snorkel around, and a lot of different things. But I think it's good for us.
Food is a major factor in a tourist's experience. Many are hopeful that visitors to the town will rave about the locally prepared mixed drinks and seafood dishes, for which Port Royal is also famous. For PBCJ News, I am Marlon Samuels.
The public is being reminded of the new regime for getting a provisional driver's license. It takes effect on January 25. Chief Corporate Communications Officer at the Tax Administration of Jamaica, Maurice Horton, explained this at a recent JIS think tank session.
Currently, persons would have the practice of coming directly to Tax Administration Jamaica, any one of the tax offices. They come in, they would pay the fee, complete the application form, pay the fee, and get the provisional driver's license at TAJ. However, come the 25th of January, persons will no longer be able to come first to TAJ. They must now first go to the Island Traffic Authority Examination Depot. So that's very important, very key point. So because the new provision comes into effect on the 25th, it means therefore that the last day that someone can come to the tax office first to get their provisional driver's license under the existing regime is Friday, January 24. So that's the last day that they can come to the tax offices. Why is that important? We have an office that is open on the 25th. The Portmore tax office opens on the 25th of January, on a Saturday. However, persons will not be able to come to the Portmore tax office on the 25th to do anything in relation to a provisional driver's license. Because remember, on the 25th, the new provisions take effect.
The Transport Ministry says provisional driver's license acquired before January 25, 2020 will remain valid until the applicable expiration date. However, anyone renewing a provisional driver's license thereafter will have to first visit an examination depot to sit the road code test. A new e-learning tool and all the resources to sharpen the skills of key personnel, both locally and regionally, is now being used in the fight against human trafficking. The National Repertoire on Trafficking in Persons is set to host an inaugural regional trafficking conference in April 2020, geared towards showcasing the new resource. The technology, which is the first of its kind in the Caribbean, is dubbed the Human Trafficking e-learning tool. It became a reality as a result of a joint partnership and funding of approximately $3 million from the British High Commission. With the Human Trafficking e-learning tool, first responders and frontline officers involved in the fight against human trafficking will have access to relevant, practical and localized information on human trafficking wherever and whenever they need it. The tool will also provide insight about the general indicators of human trafficking and the resources available to support victims. J. Paul Morgan, a former Director General of the Office of Utilities Regulation, died Sunday morning. Mr. Morgan had been ailing for some time. He also served as President of the National Water Commission. The US dollar on Friday, January 17, ended trading at Jamaican $138.67, up by $1. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $107.55, up from $106.68, while the British pound sterling ended trading at $183.31, up from $180.74. In regional news, an attempt to divide the region. That's how Barbados Prime Minister and Caribbean Community Chair Mia Mottley has described Tuesday's multilateral roundtable discussion between U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and selected Caribbean leaders.
I am conscious that in the next week questions will be asked as to whether the Barbados Foreign Minister happened to be missing from a meeting in Kingston in Jamaica that will take place on Tuesday. And we don't look to pick fights. I don't look to pick fights. But I am conscious that if this country does not stand for something, then it will fall for anything. As chairman of CARICOM, it is impossible for me to agree that my foreign minister should attend a meeting with anyone to which members of CARICOM are not invited. If some are invited and not all, then it is an attempt to divide this region.
She was speaking at a gala to celebrate the centenary of birth of the Barbados' first Prime Minister, Errol Barrow, on Saturday.
I am conscious that when Errol Barrow stood and remarked that we shall be friends of all and satellites of none, little did he know that that statement would be embraced by every single Prime Minister and government that succeeded him. It is as valid today, perhaps even more so, than it was at the time of its initial delivery. And I say so, conscious that principles only mean something when it is inconvenient to stand by them. Conscious that this region must always check itself to ensure that we not become the pawns of others, the satellites of others, but that we keep evermost and uppermost in our minds what we must do for our people without simply becoming pawns on a chessboard.
PBCJ cannot confirm at this time which Caribbean states will be excluded from the meeting with Mr. Pompeo. The Secretary of State will be in Jamaica for a working visit from January 21 to January 22. He will meet with Prime Minister Andrew Holness, conduct a multilateral roundtable discussion with the Caribbean leaders, and deliver remarks on U.S.-Caribbean relations. Last March, U.S. President Donald Trump hosted the leaders of St. Lucia, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, and Bahamas at the Mar-a-Lago Resort. Then chairman of the regional body, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Timothy Harris, was not invited to the meeting. At the time, other excluded heads of state, such as St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, described the selective meeting as, quote, troubling, end quote. In sports, we start on the field with football. Waterhouse began the third round of the Red Stripe Premier League with a 1-0 victory over Vere United at the Wembley Centre of Excellence on Sunday. The victory moves Waterhouse to 43 points, while regulation threatened Vere remain at the foot of the table on 16 points. And onto the courts, the Sunshine Girls have opened their season with a winning start with a 59-54 win over South Africa in their opening game at the Vitality Nations Cup in Nottingham, England on Sunday. On Sunday, the Jamaicans did well in most areas of the game, showing they had put the past few months of controversy on and off the court behind them. In the day's opener, world champions New Zealand defeated England 64-48. The competition moves to Birmingham for the second match day on Wednesday, when Jamaica will face New Zealand and England meet South Africa. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.